What's up, guys? Redbeard here today, and it turns out Xaviant is not completely dead. The failure of the culling 2 and the downfall and eventual failure of the culling itself has not driven them to total bankruptcy and has not caused their business, I guess, to collapse entirely. So they they announced, I guess, Don't Die Minerva on Halloween, October 31st, which is today. So I'll let you guys watch the trailer and then I'll give you some of my impressions. Alright, so here are some of my impressions. Some of like the graphics and some of the ghosts and stuff kind of look a little funny. They don't look quite like they belong. I'm just not quite sure what it is. Ghosts are supposed to be kind of like transparent, or I want to say, but these ghosts, they're kind of like bright neon colors, and they don't seem to like fit well with the rest of the aesthetic. Now the aesthetic itself isn't like, it doesn't look terrible. It actually looks like kind of decent. It's just like the ghosts and like the ectoplasm that kind of looks kind of funny to me, but maybe that's just my personal taste. Like gameplay wise, this is totally different than what Xaviant has been like known for. But I mean, they say they've only released, like, they're working on 3 games in their history. This isn't really what the people who are following Xaviant want, but I think this is just what Xaviant's trying to put out there so they can make some money. I mean, it's not for the culling people, that's pretty clear. They're basically saying, yeah, we're done with you guys. We're trying to get into a different market. And, I mean, if that's what they want to do, and if they want to put out a decent game for other people, that's totally fine with me. I'm not going to be like, yo, Xaviant, you must make the culling no matter what. Because, I mean, obviously that hasn't, business-wise, been very good for them. So if they want to do their own thing and try to appeal to a different market, as long as they make a decent game and they don't exploit people somehow, go for it. I don't care. Alright, so let's look at the Steam page and just read what it has to say. It is coming out in early access on Steam, and it's coming out on Xbox, I guess, which was kind of the mistake, I guess, that Culling ran into, because the dev team ended up being split between the 2 platforms, but we'll just look and see what they have to say. So why early access? Don't Die Minerva is our 3rd early access title. We've learned a lot from our previous releases, and we know we're ready to deliver a satisfying early access experience for those who want to participate. Other roguelites, so it's a roguelike, which is interesting because it looks kind of like, it's got like, what do they call it? That top-down shooter. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like those Ghostbuster top-down kind of games ish. Maybe like a little bit of like Enter the Gungeon. Well, I mean, top-down roguelike shooters, pretty much all the same. But saying this is the same like quality as Enter the Gungeon, no. Probably not, I would have to say. So other roguelikes have shown that early access is well suited to this genre. Okay. Our initial release is already a solid core gameplay experience that offers a clear vision of the game we're making. See, this is really good. If what they're saying here is true, then basically they're not looking for players to impact the vision of the game. And I've talked about this in a previous video. I think that's generally a little bit okay. In addition to expected bug fixes and general polish, We're looking forward to adding new levels, enemies, loot, and features along the way. We can't wait to meet the game's full potential and with your feedback and support. Approximately how long will this game be in early access? This depends on several factors, but a safe estimate would range from 6 months to a year, which I think is pretty reasonable. If that's true, I mean, the calling, I just felt like it was early access for like ever. And then they just kind of released it when it wasn't ready. So I think 6 months to a year might be doable. Like, I don't know how big the team is at Xaviant, but I guess we'll see. How is the full version planned to differ from the early access version? All of the core gameplay systems are represented in the initial release, but the full version will include much more in terms of features and content. The core gameplay won't change drastically, but the game will be significantly bigger and hopefully a whole lot better. Our current plans include new levels, biomes, more visual variety with existing levels, new enemies, new bosses, new weapons and friendlies. There's stuffed animals that assist Minerva in combat. I mean, okay. New unlocks and abilities, player stat tracking, more systems that focus on exploration, and additional difficulty levels. See, that sounds like stuff people would probably want. New ideas and plans are starting to emerge as we move through the early access phase. What is the current state of the early access version? The game is in what we consider to be a solid beta state that is ready to be expanded with new content and features as we enter early access. There are some bugs and known issues, but we have applied enough testing and optimization to expect that players will have a good experience with initial release. It's good to hear if it's true. Will the game be priced differently during and after early access? We don't expect to change the price of the game when we leave early access. I don't know what the price is right now. I don't know what they plan it to be. How are you planning on involving the community in your development process? This is an area where we learned a great deal from our previous early access games. I'm sure you have. We will post developer blogs. That's a good idea at regular intervals. Goodness me. That communicate our current status and roadmap. As often as is reasonable, we will survey the community for feedback and suggestions. When the community has a clear message for us, so they're going with that. So I talked about this in my Our Gamers Toxic Entitled Man Babies, and I talked about how if the company or the service thinks that gamers or their customers are being like ambivalent or aren't sure what they want, it's actually because the company has split their customer base, and there's people who are wanting one thing while there's people who are wanting another thing, and it's not from the fault of the players or the customers. It's from the fault of the business who, for whatever reason, managed to split their customer base. So it's not the community's fault that the feedback is so different. It's your fault that you split the community, Xaviant. I want to make sure you understand that. If you don't, go watch my Our Gamers Toxic Entitled Man Babies video. I'll explain everything for you. When the community has a clear message for us, we will be happy to act on it and to let you know that we've made a difference. If we make a change, the community clearly isn't on board, we'll be happy to roll it back and look for a better solution. I mean, besides you taking that little jab at the community there, I think what you're saying is good. Our philosophy is that once you purchased an early access title, the dev team no longer has 100% ownership over it. While the burden of doing the heavy lifting is on our shoulders, we owe you the ability to have your voice heard and to make sure you're aware of our plans and reasons behind the decisions we make. But it has to be the majority of the community, so some voices, as long as the voices are united, they matter to you, calling, but you're not going to take the time to analyze feedback. You're just going to go with what the majority says, which is not necessarily a good thing. Because sometimes the majority is wrong. It's just how feedback works. You gotta be critical and analyze this stuff. You can't just say, oh, well, most people want it. You gotta be like, well, Most people want it, but you know, what most people want here is going to damage our vision, so we got to say no to these guys. We're excited to go on this journey with you and build a strong, positive community around the game and find a common goal of seeing it flourish and grow. I hope for your sake that you do too. I don't think this is a game that a lot of people who are following Xaviant are expecting or want, but there are people that want top-down shooter roguelike sort of dealy bobs, and they would probably be interested in it. So about this game, on a dark and stormy night, 11-year-old Minerva discovers a haunted house deep in the woods, and before she knows it, she is in for the fight of her life. Don't Die Minerva is a roguelike action RPG set. It's an action RPG, huh? It's interesting. Set in a haunted house. Armed with a flashlight and a backpack full of friendly stuffed animals who are brought to life by the house's magic, Minerva must explore the mansion and defeat its ghostly inhabitants. Along the way, Minerva meets helpful characters who can aid her on her quest. Death is nearly inevitable, but with each run, you will gain valuable essence and unlock new abilities and better loot. With multiple levels of difficulty ranging from an easy stroll in a moonlit park to a punishing challenge only to be faced by the bravest of souls, Don't Die Minerva offers crisp controls, exhilarating action, spectacular visuals, and deep stat-driven loot system. Dungeons, loot, and enemies are all generated randomly, meaning no two runs are the same. What's kind of interesting is it's coming out in December 2019, but they made the announcement for it on October, and it's kind of a Halloween-focused game with ghosts and stuff. I don't know. Like, generally, I feel like when developers release something, especially like AAA developers, or like when it comes to Hollywood, if you want to release a movie and hope that nobody sees it, you release it in December. That's kind of like known throughout the industry, like the entertainment industry. So the fact that Xaviant is releasing this in December, I mean, from a metaphorical standpoint, looking at how the industry handles things, it doesn't bode well, but in the same sense, maybe that's when they decided like it would be best to do so because people could buy it. Maybe they'll release it early December so people can buy it as like a Christmas present or something. I don't know. I have no fucking clue. I'm just speculating and rambling at this point. I've said everything I needed to say. That's all, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.